endgame exercise together. So the task for this one is white to move and how can white get a draw. So so at the very beginning, it seems that because white has up one pawn, it looks like white has like some advantage over its opponent on the board. But when we take a closer look, we will realize actually the black king is um, has a very active position, and also the king is very close to our pawn. So for example, if I move the king to g2, and the black king will eventually take both of my f4 and g5 pawn. So the question is, how can I get a draw? So yeah, as I just show you, so the first move in my head on this position is king d2 because I really want to get my king closer to my pawn, which makes sense. But that's the interesting part in chess. Sometimes the move like coming from your intuition does not necessarily work as the best move. So what would black play? So probably black will play king to g4 to take my pawn, and I have to give up the pawn. So for example, if I play f5, the king will take that, and if I play g6, let's say, and black will take that with the king g6. Okay, cool. So can white get a draw in this position if black plays its best move? And the answer is no, because this is something about the key squares. So when the pawn, like as like a black pawn at f7, so these three squares are key squares: e5, f5, and g5. So as long as its king can occupy any of the square, black can win. Okay, so what does that mean? So for example, the white king moved to f3, and I can move king to f5. So this is one of the key squares, and the reason I play king f5 is I want to like oppose the white king. So the white king has to give way basically, either to the left or to the right. And when the king reaches to e3, and black king can play king to g4. This is something we call outflank. It's like when your opponent moves the king to one side and your king move to the other side. And the thing is how the reason is this is how we can step in to this area where the white king is trying to control. And then thinking about these three squares are all controlled by the black king. So the pawn can going forward in these three steps without any danger. So what should white play? So if white play king to f2, let's say, so the interesting part is what should black play? So if it play f5, that does not turn out to be the best move, and white can get a draw, because when the pawn reaching f5, the key square change into this three. So white king can play king to g2. Now the white king start to oppose the black king. So white king is controlling this two square. If we can go f4, white king can forever oppose the black king. And if you go up, king f3, yeah, so white can definitely get a draw. And if you push the pawn, the king can go to f2, and if you put king e4, I can play king e2. So when the black pawn reaches f4, so this 6 square, so there are 3 more, you will have 3 more key squares. But in this position, white king can always find a way to stop or prevent black king controlling any of the key squares. If you go back to f5, I will keep following, and just like this, opposing your king. And if you push down, king f2, f4, and king f1. So these squares are the key square for a pawn at f3, and if white plays its best move, black king is impossible for black king to control the key square, and the game will end up as a draw. But the thing is, remember, on this position I play a wrong move. What is that? Yes, I play f5 because like this. I play f5 because when I play f5, the white king can oppose the black king. So how should black play? So black have more than one best move. So for example, I can play king f4. I can oppose the white king in advance. And if you move king to g2, I can play king e3. Remember, because my pawn will like eventually move to like f5 sooner or later. So my king can take the key square in advance. And if you play g3, I can move the pawn to f5. So my king is at one of the key squares, and black can win. And if you go down, so f4, remember the key square for f4 pawn is this 6 squares. And if you go to, for example, g1, I can play king e2. I'm still in the key square, go up, and these 3 squares are controlled, so the black pawn will become a queen. Okay, so the thing is, let's go back a bit. So the thing is, so at the beginning, so if black king can take these 2 pawns when its own pawn at f7, for example, as I show you, if black king end up as at like g5, taking all the white pawns, and the pawn at f7, the black king is at key square, and black can win. So since there is no hope that white king can save these 2 pawns, so white should have a way to stop black king controlling the key square. How can we do that? And this one is really interesting. And the best move is actually g6. And the strategy is we need to push the black pawn moving upward, which makes the key square closer and closer to our king. So what do I mean? So if I play g6, so black has to take the pawn either with the king or the pawn. Otherwise, the pawn will just go to 7th rank. If black take this pawn, and white don't have to worry about its f4, and the king can save the pawn. So the game will end up as a draw, as long as we don't lose the f4 pawn. And I think it's very straightforward to protect the pawn. Even though white lost the pawn, I think white can definitely like stop black king controlling the key square. So that's an easy one. So if black take the pawn with the f pawn, when the pawn reaches to 6th rank, when the black pawn reaches to 6th rank, so the key square are these 3. So can we stop the black king for example, controlling any of the 3 squares? It's impossible. We move king to g2, king to g4, and when the black king taking our pawn, so we will lose the key square f4. Okay, and the interesting part is if I play f3, so that's a very interesting position. If black take the pawn with the king, for the g6 pawn, these 3 are the key square. If I move king to f3, I can oppose the black king, and black cannot like make the king occupy the key square. But I think black can take the pawn with the g6 pawn, and the pawn reaches f5. These 3 are the key square, and now it's white to move. So it's just the same thing as black king is posing the white king. So the white king has to, for example, move to f2 to still control these 2 squares. But black king can move to f4 to opposing the white king. And eventually, the white king will just give up this key square, and the pawn will be promoted. Okay, so how can I do then? So in this case, the best part of this game is play pawn to f5, as I said. So the strategy is forcing the black king or the black pawn moving downward, which makes the key squares closer and closer to the white king. So if black take the pawn, these 3 squares are the key square. What can we do? King g2 is a blunder because the black king can make it to fg4 to oppose our king. We have to give way. So the only best move is king g1. That's unintuitive, but that's the best move. And we have to keep in mind of the key squares. So that's the super important thing in the king versus pawn ending. If king goes to g4, we can oppose the black king. So this is how we can get the draw. And if a king goes to g5, we can play king f1. And if you play king f2, I can play king f2. So white king has to oppose the black king. If you play king g2, king g4, I can play king g2. In this case, white can get a draw. It's a stalemate, right? So f5, that's the best move. And so if black doesn't take our pawn, for example, if black play g5, it's okay because this is square are the key square for the g5 pawn. And so white has multiple way to get a draw here. We can play f4, f6. Black king has to catch up with the pawn. We can move the king upward. If you take king f5, king f3. And my king can control these three squares with confidence. Yeah, can get a draw like this. Okay, so that's the that's about this puzzle.